Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Coming up tonight on Our News, thousands of Bahamians still in need as NIB aid nears $250 million. Why the House Speaker is predicting an early election will be called soon. And it's a prison ploy as a woman is charged with impersonating a lawyer at the Department of Corrections. Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, the National Insurance Board has distributed nearly $230 million in aid to struggling and unemployed Bahamians, and it's nearing $250 million. Minister for NIB and the Public Service Brensel Roll revealing that fact outside Cabinet today. Jasmine Brown reports.
I looked at numbers yesterday which suggest that when we look at the entire income support and unemployment assistance program, some $219 million have already been spent. And that does not include an additional $10 million that will come in the month of February.
That's the National Insurance Minister explaining just how much NIB has spent assisting Bahamians who have fallen on hard times because of the COVID-19 pandemic. He says the nearly $230 million in unemployment and income support was one of the most expensive endeavors taken on by NIB.
You got to look at it in the context. Never before in the history of the Bahamas has any government agency spent as much as NIB on income support and unemployment assistance.
With the economy coming to a near standstill since the start of the pandemic, thousands of Bahamians found themselves out of work and in need of financial assistance from NIB. Last week, Minister of Labor Dion Folks said he is confident based on the evidence that he sees in the economy, the unemployment rate has drastically come down. But over the weekend, Director of Labor John Pinder told our news team that 40% of Bahamians and residents are still not working amid the COVID-19 pandemic. With thousands of people still out of work and dependent on NIB assistance, the NIB minister was asked how much longer will NIB be able to continue the programs.
That is a concern. We anticipate that industries will be coming back. We understand that they are coming back slowly. But I think the Bahamian public also appreciate that the government has extended income support much longer than even we believe were possible. If you look back at the history of income support in the country, we anticipated that we would have gone to June. It's now almost 12 months.
Now, Roll says NIB will continue to do what it can for as long as it can with the money that it has. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Well, House Speaker Halson Moultrie predicting the country's financial circumstances may lead to an early election by June or sooner. This revelation made as Moultrie appeared on the Hit Back with Nahaja Black last evening. Giorgio Bain reports.
House Speaker Halson Moultrie suggesting that the government cannot go beyond the mid-year budget without finding alternate revenue sources. The House Speaker says based on the country's current circumstances and his analytical expertise, he has concluded that the election must be called soon.
The elections must be called very soon.
Must be.
Must be.
Why do you say that elections will be called soon?
Very soon.
And you say must, not.
The circumstances are such that the revenue generator of the Bahamas is basically in shutdown mode. Mm-hmm. So we don't have any revenue coming in, comparatively speaking. We were running a deficit budget even with the revenue at its peak.
The Bahamas has now entered loan shark territory, according to Moultrie, who insists that the country has maxed out its borrowing at preferred interest rates.
So we find ourselves in a circumstance now where we have basically maxed out our borrowing capacity at preferred interest rates.
Yes.
Now, you could always borrow, but when you max out your capacity at the preferred interest rate, you enter shark territory.
The House Speaker says while loan sharks will always be willing to loan money, the Bahamas cannot borrow, leading him to believe that the Prime Minister will have no choice but to call an election by June or even sooner.
Yes.
Now tell me which party it's going to try to go into a general election raising taxes on the people.
But this is what you foresee, that
So-
taxes have to come.
So we have a budgetary period coming in June.
Mhm.
The government can't go much further than June without finding some other mechanism to generate revenue.
Reporting for our news, I'm Georgie Bain.
While Minister of National Security Marvin Dame says the government will abide by the law as it relates to voters displaced by Abaco and Grand Bahama, he gave no indication that changes to the law are being considered to accommodate those affected.
The law is pretty clear on that now, and we can't circumvent the law. I would have spoken to that, I think, a few weeks ago. But the law is really clear on persons who would have been out of their jurisdiction for, I believe it's 6 months, and how they are to be treated.
Dorian devastated Abaco and Grand Bahama in September 2019, leaving scores of people dead and thousands displaced. According to the Parliamentary Registration Act, a resident is entitled to register as a voter in a constituency if they are living in and have been living in that constituency for 3 months. If a person has moved to another constituency for more than 3 months but less than 6 months, the person can choose which constituency to vote in. When pressed on whether or not the government is making changes to the law to accommodate people displaced by Dorian, Dame said he did not want to speculate or mislead anyone.
I can't begin this process of speculating and making assumption and misleading persons. Right now, we have laws that governs how we ought to conduct ourselves, and we all have to comply with the law. That's why we create laws.
In other news, a woman will spend 15 months behind bars for pretending to be an attorney and attempting to sneak drugs into the Bahamas Department of Corrections. Bethany McDermott has that.
25-year-old Wernica Russell pleaded guilty before Deputy Chief Magistrate Andrew Forbes, charged with 12 counts of possession of a forged document, 12 counts of uttering a forged document, and 12 counts of pretending to be a counsel and attorney at law. Between September 13, 2020 and February 12, 2021, prosecutors say Russell had a false Bahamas Bar Association identification in her possession, authorizing her access to the Bahamas Department of Corrections to visit inmates as their attorney. Russell is also accused of pretending to be qualified and recognized by law to act as a counsel and attorney. Prosecutors say Russell also took an Alcatel cell phone into prison without authorization from the officer in charge on February 12, 2021. Russell was arrested at the prison that same day for possession of a forged document. Russell informed the officers that she was told by a Stephen Green to bring cell phones and drugs into the prison. But that's not all. The mother of one was also charged with 2 counts of possession of dangerous drugs with the intent to supply. Prosecutors say on the same day, Russell was searched at the Elizabeth police station and suspected marijuana was found strapped to her abdomen. The drugs weighed 2.6 pounds and valued $2,600. Russell claimed she was offered $2,000 to take drugs into the prison for Green, a prisoner. More suspected drugs were found at Russell's home, valued at $1,600. Today in court, Russell admitted she was struggling and made a bad choice to make some money. The magistrate handed down a 13-month custodial sentence for each drug charge, 15-month sentence for possessing and uttering a forged document, and 3 months for pretending to be an attorney. For the prohibited device, she was given 6 months. The sentences will run concurrently, and Russell will spend a maximum of 15 months in prison. Reporting for Our News, I'm Bethany McDermott.
Breezy conditions in the capital today. Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center with the outlook.
Thanks, Christina. A warm and breezy day around the islands as a high-pressure system in the Atlantic continues to jet across us, but temperatures still manage to get up into the 80s. 85 was the official high. Right now we're in the mid-70s, 75 degrees is our current temperature with a few clouds outside, but it's breezy. Temperatures are going to continue to feel like the mid-70s. Satellite view, high pressure once again staying across the islands, but we are watching a frontal boundary across the northwest Bahamas with some showers and thunderstorms approaching that area, Grand Bahama, the Bimini areas. You guys will see some more showers later on tonight. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Coming up on Our News, a push for businesses to pay their power bills, and it's lights, camera action for another movie theater on New Providence set to reopen soon. Stay with us.
Every new season of On the Record, we push the limits. Venture into unknown territory. We take our cameras into places unseen before. We share the stories and experiences that affect us all. And now it's time for Season 5. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on RTV Cable Channel 212 and streaming live on Facebook on the R News Bahamas page.
Deputy Prime Minister Desmond Bannister is encouraging companies to pay their Bahamas power and light bills or to provide proof of their inability to do so.
I say this many times. It's important that if you can pay your bill, that you pay it.
Bannister says BPL cannot afford to keep the lights on without collecting outstanding bills from customers, given the power company's own dire financial straits.
I had an example the other night where a company was cut off and they were calling me, but they owe hundreds of thousands of dollars to BPL. And the challenge is, when you go home at night, you want your power on. BPL has monthly bills that run in the millions of dollars just for fuel. They have millions of dollars of bills just for to pay their staff. So these are critical things that they have to keep the company going. And the government can't keep BPL running financially. We can't keep giving to BPL.
The minister says companies that cannot afford to pay their bills in full should seek an agreement with BPL. Bannister was asked about the issue after Fusion Superplex's electricity supply was disconnected last week over a $500,000 power bill. Fusion Superplex CEO Carlos Folks confirmed that Fusion has since entered into a payment plan with the power company. Meanwhile, Galleria Cinemas says it's opening its doors despite not getting a letter from the competent authority granting it permission to open. Jared Higgs tells us the move comes after another theater was given permission to reopen.
After more than 10 months closed, Galleria Cinema says it is joining Fusion Superplex, which was granted permission to open, in a letter from the competent authority that leaked on Monday. Galleria's president, Chris Mortimer, says he didn't get a letter, but he's taking the Fusion opening as a green light.
We knew this day was coming, and we've been preparing for the last 2 to 3 months.
Mortimer says by reopening, he'll be able to rehire about 15 to 20 staff members. Before the pandemic, Galleria employed 53 staff members. The reopening is expected to benefit other stores at the mall at Marathon as well.
Tenants in the mall who we work with on a day-to-day basis, I know a lot of them are going to be, they've been wanting us to open too, because we all work in this sort of symbiotic relationship.
The theater also plans to reduce its ticket prices for adults from $10 to $7 as long as the emergency order is in place. Children's tickets will stay at $5. And with the reduction in prices and reduction in permitted seating, the theater owner says prospects for big returns are slim.
It won't be profitable for anyone. But the plan is to at least in some way break even.
Mortimer says they're still working out which movies they'll show, with few new releases on the market. He says it'll be a mix of old and new. Additionally, the letter to Fusion says no indoor dining. So Mortimer says he's seeking clarification on whether that includes the concession stand. And despite being closed for 10 months, Mortimer says he doesn't hold ill will. He thinks the country's health situation rightfully took priority.
I think it's important to be safe. Here again goes back to my earlier point, which is we didn't have any product to play anyway.
Galleria's Grand Bahama location will stay closed for now. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Meanwhile, another popular entertainment destination is set to reopen after 11 months. Jillian Gray has that.
After nearly a year closed, lanes will finally be opened at Mario's Bowling Alley, but it may not look exactly the way you left it. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, management said they've had to do things a bit different.
We have separated the lanes. So there is a pair of lanes that's going to be strictly dedicated per family. So you won't be interacting with other families and strangers.
When we arrived at Mario's, workers were vacuuming, cleaning windows, and preparing the grounds to welcome guests on Wednesday. Managing Director Leslia Miller-Bryce says the usual safety protocols will be adhered to.
There has been reduced capacity. So once you enter the facility, we take your temperature checks. Of course, if your temperature does not meet the requirement, we do ask you, to come back and play with us another day because it's paramount. It's so very important that we ensure that all guests entering, they're safe. Once you come past that first protocol, we then ask you to sanitize. Once you sanitize, you walk into the facility, you go and get your bowling shoes.
With no income since March 2020, Bryce says it's been challenging over the past few months. Though they've gotten the all clear to reopen, not all staff members will be back on day one.
We have done our best as a team. We've done our best as management to ensure that our team, continue to be motivated. We ensured that they had the resources that they needed.
Bryce says they're just hoping that families are ready to return to the lanes.
We're going to see how it goes. We're hoping that Bahamians do want to come out and have a good time. So we're appealing to you. Let's have a good time. Let's just come out and relax. Bring the kids. Let them run around. Let's bowl.
Until the 10 p.m. curfew is extended, Bryce says Mario's will be open from 5 to 9 p.m. daily. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
When Our News comes back from the break, a businesswoman charting a new course of her own, and Marcellus Hall has the latest in sports. The details when Our News returns.
Every new season of On the Record, we push the limits. Venture into unknown territory. We take our cameras into places unseen before. We share the stories and experiences that affect us all. And now it's time for Season 5. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on RTV Cable Channel 212 and streaming live on Facebook on the Our News Bahamas page.
This is Our News. Welcome back. As the campaign season heats up, Our News is helping you to get to know some of the political newcomers vying for election. In tonight's edition of Meet the Candidate, Kyle Joaquin chats it up with Leslie Bryce, a businesswoman charting a course of her own.
A hard worker, an entrepreneur, a creative thinker, a mother of 3, and a wife.
Meet Leslie Bryce, a businesswoman and mother of 3. She's stepping up to the plate and looking to dedicate her service to the community of Seabreeze.
I felt as though I would be a good mesh. The folks of Seabreeze have definitely been neglected. They've been abandoned, and I am here to bridge that gap. That's why I've chosen Seabreeze.
A beauty queen and philanthropist, she says witnessing the effects of the pandemic on so many families, she felt the time was now to step up and offer herself, her creativity, and her work.
I've wore the sash of Miss Bahamas on me before, and now I want to take it to a different level. We've cleaned over 30 lots in the area just to keep the community clean.
You cleaned the lots?
Lots.
The empty lots?
The empty lots, the abandoned homes where the bushes had grew up.
But today, she got to let her hair down a bit with a cup of tea at the beautiful Bon Vivants.
So Kyle, I'll pour for you.
Go ahead, thank you.
You want me to pour? No, I'm pouring for Kyle today. Okay.
And we got to know Leslie, the woman and mother of 9-year-old twins and a 15-year-old, who she says pushed her to live life to the fullest.
I have a 15-year-old, so I'm not as young as you think. Anyone that knows me knows that I am 100% hands-on with my kids. Their schoolwork, their after-school events, any activities that they have, spelling bee, class activities, I am totally hands-on.
While she charts her own course, Bryce does not run away from her rich family heritage and the man who taught her so much about life and politics, her father, Leslie Miller.
The way to do things, your approach to people, your love, your compassion. I've had an excellent teacher, and I don't take that for granted.
A businesswoman and manager at Mario's Entertainment and Bowling Palace, Leslie Bryce says she's found herself giving back in many ways she's never expected. And now she enters a new arena, frontline politics.
And so I'm no stranger. I know what it is to go door to door. I know what it is to visit homes. I want them to think about the fact that I'm going to be accessible and visible. I'm going to remain in the heart of the community. They're going to see me. They're going to feel me.
With this edition of Meet the Candidate for Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Thanks, Kyle. In sports tonight, Buddy Hield and the Kings continue to struggle with another tough loss. Here's Marcellus Hall.
Thanks a lot, Christina. I tell you what, welcome to our sports on a Tuesday, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. It's difficult playing back-to-back nights in any case, but for the Sacramento Kings, who've been on a bit of a rough stretch, back-to-back nights, never a good thing, especially when facing one of the better teams in the league. Last night, they took the floor once again, hoping to snap their losing skid. Turns out things didn't go quite as planned. Bahama native Buddy Hield and the Sacramento Kings playing on back-to-back nights. They hosted the Brooklyn Nets yesterday evening. And this one a tough game for the Kings. They scored a lot of points, 125 to be exact, but it would be not nearly enough as Brooklyn goes on to get 136 on the evening, even without one of their big three on the bench, Kevin Durant, out with an injury. Taking a look at the matchup as it was, a good night for Buddy, at least in terms of scoring-wise. Hield on the floor, 33 minutes. He would end up with 21 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists on 7 of 13 shooting. He also shot 6 of 9 from downtown. Finished up with a steal as well to pad his stats just a little bit. Wrong thing was he ended up on the wrong side of the scoreboard. Sacramento falls 136 to 125, and they have now lost 4 in a row and continue their struggles. As it is now, the Kings are 11th in the Western Conference. Only the top 8 make the playoffs, so they've got some work to do. They fall to 12 and 15. Their next game, just in case you're wondering, comes your way on Thursday when they take on the Miami Heat. And that's a check on sports for you here on this Tuesday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you.
When our news returns, Greg Thompson is back in the Weather Center and a new NIB director expected to be announced this week. The details coming up.
Every new season of On the Record, we push the limits. Venture into unknown territory. We take our cameras into places unseen before. We share the stories and experiences that affect us all. And now it's time for Season 5. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on RTV Cable Channel 212 and streaming live on Facebook on the R News Bahamas page.
Welcome back to our news. Is there rain ahead this week? Greg is back in the Weather Center with the answer.
Thanks again, Christina. In our second look at weather, we take a look at our satellite view around the region. We have an active cold front now moving across the northwest Bahamas with some showers and isolated thunderstorms across the Grand Bahama, the Abacos, as well as the Bimini area. Some of those thunderstorms will be strong at times, and those showers will be occasionally heavy, so you could see some ponding across the road. This front boundary is expected to stall and move back towards north over the next day or so. But we do expect another low-pressure system to develop in the Gulf of Mexico. That will drag a significant cold front across our area by Friday, and that should cool us down for the weekend. Your boating forecast for the northwest and central Bahamas tonight through tomorrow. Your winds will be out of the southeast to south, 15 to 20 knots. Seas running 4 to 6 feet over the ocean. While in the southeast Bahamas, we have an advisory posted for you guys down there. East to southeasterly winds, 15 to 25 knots. Seas running 5 to 8 feet over the ocean. Tide is presently low, will be high at 11:18 tonight. Here now is a look at your national forecast. I'll look now at your extended forecast through Sunday. That's a look at our weather. Make it a safe night, everyone. Christina?
Thanks, Greg. Well, Cabinet is set to announce a new director of the National Insurance Board this week. That according to NIB and Public Service Minister Brensel Roll, who refused to name the new director.
We've selected a new director for NIB. The Cabinet Office is going to announce this week who he is, and he is intended to take office shortly thereafter.
Back in December, Roll addressed rumors that Patrick Ward, a former NIB chairman, was being eyed to replace Virgil Roll. Outside Cabinet today, Roll declined to say the name of the new director.
I said he was a mayor. The person was a mayor. He's been selected by the Cabinet, and I can't preempt the Cabinet as they make their announcement.
The search for a new NIB director began in December after the sudden resignation of Dr. Nicola Virgil Roll from that post in late November. Virgil Roll was appointed director of NIB on July 1st, 2018. Roll said he was surprised by Virgil Roll's resignation, but wished her well in her new endeavors. Well, thank you for joining us for our news tonight. I'm Christina Dragovich. Stay tuned for the exciting new seasons of RTV Originals Broke Bosses, followed by Gippy's Kingdom. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.